Hello, everyone. This is K. Lakshmi Petra, JLN Zoology Nemakuru. Welcomes you to our APRJC family. After 10 or 15 days, today I am going to discuss some small topics regarding the body fluids and circulation. Okay. First of all, clotting of blood. Clotting of blood. Blood coagulation. Otherwise, we can say that blood coagulation. Before I am going to discuss about blood coagulation or clotting of blood, you try to recall what did you studied regarding blood coagulation or clotting of blood in 10th class. What did you studied? Actually, try to recall. Simply it is mentioned in 10th class. Simply it is mentioned in 3 steps through 3 simple equations. What are they? When there is an injury, usually the blood will clot within 3 to 6 minutes. When a blood vessel is injured, what did you studied in 10th class? I will explain one more time. When a blood vessel is injured, the platelets in our blood release an enzyme called thrombokinase. Thrombokinase. That thrombokinase converts the inactive prothrombin into thrombin. When there is an injury, the platelets release an enzyme called thrombokinase. That thrombokinase converts prothrombin into active thrombin. Thrombin is also an enzyme that inactive prothrombin is converted to thrombin in the presence of thrombokinase enzyme. And then this thrombin enzyme converts the soluble protein in our blood that is called fibrinogen. This thrombin enzyme converts that soluble fibrinogen protein in our blood, converts that fibrinogen into fibrin fibers. First of all, when there is an injury, the platelets release an enzyme called thrombokinase. Thrombokinase converts fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is a plasma protein in our blood that is soluble in the blood. That fibrinogen converts fibrin. Fibrin is fibrin fibers. Fibrin fibers are insoluble in the plasma. Then what will happen? Platelets, blood cells, that means both WBC and RBC, platelets, WBC, RBC entangle in the fibrin fibers, forming the blood clot. This is what did you studied in the 10th class regarding blood clotting. But now But now you need to learn this more in detail. You need to learn this more in detail. So I am going to discuss it. Listen carefully. When a blood vessel is injured, a number of physiological mechanisms are activated that promote hemostasis. Hemostasis. What is hemostasis? See here, hemo means blood. Hemo means blood. Status means halting. Halting. Hemo means blood. Status means halting. Put together means the halting of blood. That means the stoppage of bleeding or the stoppage of flow of blood. Hemostasis means, hemo means blood and status means actually halting. Put together means the halting of blood. That means the stoppage of bleeding or the stoppage of flow of blood. Okay. Breakage of a blood vessel exposes collagen proteins in the blood. This initiates three hemostatic mechanisms. These are hemostatic mechanisms. How the stoppage of flow of blood occurs. How the stoppage of flow of blood when a blood vessel is injured occurs. This initiate three hemostatic mechanisms. Number one, vasoconstriction. Number one, vasoconstriction. What is vasoconstriction? Vaso means a vessel. Vaso means a vessel. Vaso means a vessel or a blood vessel. Constriction means contraction. Number two, the formation of platelet plug. Next, number three, the production of a web of fibrin proteins. That means finally blood clot. Okay. First of all, vasoconstriction. As I told you earlier, that vaso means a vessel or a blood vessel. Constriction means contraction. Narrowing of the walls of blood vessels that results from contraction of the muscular walls in the vessels. When a blood vessel is damaged, the smooth muscles in its wall contract, which make the lumen of the vessel narrow. Totally vasoconstriction occurs. Number two, platelet plug formation. Platelet plug formation. When the endothelium of blood vessel is ruptured, platelets stick fast to the collagen and release some secretions. These secretions aggregate, that means collect, other platelets and make them sticky, so that they stick fast to those already stuck on the collagen and form a platelet plug. Next, third point, production of a web of fibrin protein. This is the third mechanism of hemostasis in which the formation of clot occurs. Okay, the activator substances from the injured vascular wall, platelets and blood proteins sticking to the vascular wall initiate the clotting process. So clot is a web of fibrin with blood cells trapped in it. Next, mechanism of blood clotting. Mechanism of blood clotting. Clotting takes place in 3 steps. Earlier we discussed about the hemostatic mechanisms. Now I will discuss about the clotting mechanisms. Step 1. Formation of a complex activated substances called prothrombin activator. Simply it is mentioned as as a prothrombin, an enzyme in the 10th class, but actually it is a complicated and very complex process. Formation of a complex activated substances called prothrombin activator. It is formed by a complex flow of chemical reactions that occur in the blood by the involvement of clotting factors. What are the clotting factors? How many kinds of clotting, how many types of clotting factors? Later I will discuss. Okay. Formation of clotting, formation of prothrombin activator. Formation of prothrombin activator in 2 ways. Number 1, intrinsic pathway, and number 2, extrinsic pathway. Intrinsic pathway, extrinsic pathway. Intrinsic pathway means it occurs naturally and it is very essential. It occurs naturally and very essential. But extrinsic pathway, it is completely external and not essential. Whatever the method it may be, whichever the method it may be, either intrinsic pathway or extrinsic pathway, finally the prothrombin activator is formed. The prothrombin activator is formed, whichever the method it is. But you have to pay attention on what are the factors involved in intrinsic pathway and what are the factors involved to form extrinsic pathway. See here, intrinsic pathway occurs when the blood is exposed to collagen of injured wall of blood vessel. It occurs when the damaged vascular wall comes into contact with the blood. This pathway, intrinsic pathway, consists of the clotting factors, factor 8, factor 9, factor 10, and factor 11, factor 12, and factor 5, and prothrombin. The damaged vascular wall releases thromboplastin, this is called tissue factor, activates the factor 7. Activate the factor 7. Because of this, through flow of reactions by the involvement of above factors, finally prothrombin activator is formed. As a result of cascade of reactions, that means a complicated flow of reactions, the prothrombin activator is formed. And next, step 2, activation of prothrombin. In the earlier class, 10th class, that prothrombin actually activated by thrombokinase enzyme, that prothrombin converted to thrombin. But here, actually, the prothrombin is converted to thrombin. Actually, prothrombin is inactive, but thrombin is active. In the presence of prothrombin activator and calcium ions, here there is some mistake here. Here prothrombin is converted to thrombin in the presence of prothrombin activator and calcium ions. So the active thrombin enzyme is formed. Next, step 3, that active thrombin converts soluble protein, namely fibrinogen, into fibrin fibers. Fibrin fibers are insoluble. Fibrin fibers are insoluble. Okay. Next, fibrin fibers are held together by weak hydrogen bonds. The factor 13, which is released from platelets, replaces hydrogen bonds with covalent bonds and cross-links the fibers to form a meshwork. Observe here, hydrogen bonds are very weak bonds. These hydrogen bonds replaces with covalent bonds, because the covalent bonds are very strong. Covalent bonds are strong bonds than hydrogen bonds. So the factor 13, which is released from platelets, replaces hydrogen bonds with covalent bonds and cross-links the fibers to form a meshwork. The insoluble meshwork of fibrin fibers spreading in all directions stick to the damaged surfaces and trap the blood vessels. That means WBC and RBC, platelets and plasma. This is called blood clot. Finally, the blood clot is formed. Next, clot retraction. This is the final step in coagulation. What is clot retraction? The fibrin threads form a mesh that traps platelets, blood cells, both WBC and RBC, and plasma within minutes. That means 3 to 6 minutes. The fibrin meshwork begins to contract and squeezing out its fluid contents. This is called clot retraction. Because of this, fluid thus formed in the serum. Because of clot retraction, the fibrin meshwork begins to contract, squeezing out its fluid contents. This is called clot retraction. This process called clot retraction, and the fluid thus formed is called serum. What is serum? Plasma without fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is a blood clotting factor, blood clotting protein. The plasma without, simply we can say that serum. What is serum? Plasma without fibrinogen. Serum. Okay, this is a yellowish, straw-colored fluid that oozes out of the blood clot because of the clot retraction. Serum is a yellowish, straw-colored fluid that oozes out because of the squeezing mechanism of that blood clot, oozes out of the blood clot because of the clot retraction. So serum does not have simply serum. What is serum? Plasma without fibrinogen. So serum does not contain WBC, RBC, platelets or any clotting factors. Simply it is a plasma without fibrinogen. But there is a difference between plasma and serum. We can collect the plasma without the clotting of blood. Without clotting the blood. We can collect plasma without clotting the blood. But we can collect the serum only after blood clot. That is due to clot retraction. That is due to clot retraction. Okay? Observe this diagram. that white colored fibers, these are fibrin fibers, protein fibers. You can see also, we can see RBC, some few number of RBC you can see in this diagram. They are entangled, not only RBC, WBC, this is RBC, and these are WBC, these white colored fibrin fibers. In these white colored fibrin fibers, not only RBC but also WBC, platelets are all entangled. Finally, the blood clot is formed. Okay, this is the diagram of blood clot. Next, clotting factors. Clotting factors. In your textbook, factor 1, factor 2, factor 3, what is the name of that clotting factor mentioned in your textbook. But here, I also mentioned the source of each and every factor. The source of each and every clotting factors. Where is it, for example, fibrinogen? We can take factor 1, fibrinogen. Where is it synthesized? And how the occurrence of each and every clotting factor I have mentioned here. I think it is more important for your IPE, MSET, and also for NEET. So you must learn this table thoroughly and try to remember all the factors and what is the source of each and every factor, what is the occurrence of each and every, where is it occur, all these things you should remember. Okay, factor 1. Factor 1 is called fibrinogen. Name of the factor 1 is fibrinogen. It is present in the plasma, but it is synthesized in the liver. And number 2, factor 2, prothrombin, it is also synthesized from liver. So liver plays a major role in synthesizing not only these two factors, but several factors which involves in blood coagulation are synthesized in the liver. Okay, factor 3. Factor 3, it is called thromboplastin. Thromboplastin. Factor 3 is called thromboplastin. It is a tissue factor, complex enzyme found in the blood platelets. Next, factor 4, calcium ions in the blood. What is the source of calcium ions? They are present in the blood. And next, factor 5, proaccelerin. This is also known as labile factor. Proaccelerin, factor 5. Factor 5 is called proaccelerin, also known as labile factor, circulate in plasma. And factor 7. And what about factor 6? And what about factor 6? In the past, actually, factor, it was referred in the past. Factor 6 is referred in the past, but not now, because It is nothing but the activated form of fifth factor. Factor 6 is nothing but the activated form of fifth factor. So that it was referred in the past but not now. Okay. Factor 7, proconvertin produced in the liver. That fibrinogen, prothrombin and this proconvertin synthesized in the liver. Next, factor 8, anti-hemophilic factor or anti-hemophilic globulin, AHG, simply AHG, anti-hemophilic globulin. This is blood clotting protein. Okay, blood plasma. And factor 9, plasma thromboplastin component, PTC, or this is also known as Christmas factor. This is also synthesized in liver and enter the plasma, blood stream. Okay, factor 10, this is called Stewart-Prover factor. It is an enzyme synthesized in the liver. Okay, factor 10, factor 9 and factor 7 and factor 1 and factor 2, these are all synthesized in liver. And factor 11, plasma thromboplastin antecedent, PTA. That 9th factor, PTC, but 11th factor, PTA, plasma thromboplastin antecedent. This is it is present in the blood plasma. Next, factor 12, Hagmann's factor synthesized in the liver. Factor 12, factor 10, factor 9 and factor 7, factor 1, factor 2, these are all synthesized in the liver. Next, factor 13, fibrin stabilizing factor from platelets. It is released from platelets. This is about the clotting factors. Okay. Next, factor 6. Already I told you it was referred in the past but not now. It was actually the activated form of fifth factor. Okay. Platelets are necessary for clot retraction. Failure of clot retraction is an indication that the number of platelets becomes low. The failure of clot retraction indicates that the number of platelets becomes low. We all know that in the case of dengue, the platelet count falls low and the patient may require transfusion of blood platelets. In the dengue, a viral disease, in this disease, the platelet count falls low and the patient may require transfusion of blood. Okay. Next, anticoagulants. What is anticoagulant? A substance that prevents coagulation. Substance that prevents, that act against the process of blood coagulation. Those substances are called anticoagulants. First of all, heparin. Usually, while the blood flowing in the blood vessels, the blood will not clot. Why? That is because of this substance, heparin. It is synthesized by mast cells and basophils. Mast cells. Basophils, we all know that kind of WBC, granulocyte, a kind of granulocytes, a type of granulocyte, basophils. And what about mast cells? Mast cells derive from the bone marrow and released into the blood and finally reach the tissue. Then they matured. They completely matured. Actually, mast cells derive from bone marrow and released into the blood. Finally, they reach the tissues. There, they completely mature. This is about mast cells. Okay. What does these mast cells and basophils, how can they prevent, how can they act against the process of blood coagulation? It activates antithrombin, a plasma protein, a kind of plasma protein, antithrombin, and it acts against these this substance, heparin, which is synthesized by mast cells and basophils. That heparin activates one protein, namely antithrombin. That antithrombin combines with thrombin. Antithrombin means substance that act against thrombin. That is called antithrombin. Combines with thrombin. Thrombin actually an enzyme in a active form. But here antithrombin combines with thrombin and inactivates it. Then what will happen? If there is no thrombin, what will happen? That soluble fibrinogen will not be converted to insoluble fibrin fibers. Then there will be no clot. If there is no thrombin for the process of blood coagulation, what will happen? What is the consequence? If there is no thrombin, the soluble fibrinogen will not be converted to insoluble thrombin. So there will be no blood clot. And number two, warfarin. Warfarin derived from coumarin, a sweet smelling anticoagulant. Chemical found naturally in sweet clover and many other plants. The source of this warfarin is a plant product, particularly Milletodis, that sweet clover genus Milletodis, and many other plants. It is coumarins are synthesized. From that coumarin, warfarin is derived. So coumarins are antagonistic. Actively opposing. In the bracket, I have mentioned the meaning of antagonistic, actively opposing to vitamin K from your childhood. And in 9th class, 10th class, and first year intermediate, like that, vitamin K is necessary. Vitamin K is necessary for blood coagulation, but we did not discuss the role of vitamin K in that table. We did not discuss it so far. But what is the role of vitamin K? How it helps for the coagulation of blood, clotting of blood. Coumarins are antagonistic. Coumarins are antagonistic. That means actively opposing to vitamin K, and thus prevent the synthesis of blood clotting factors 2nd, 7th, 9th and 10th formed in the liver. So vitamin K is essential for the synthesis of some kind of blood clotting factors. They are 2, 7, 9 and 10. 2, 7, 9 and 10. Vitamin K is essential for the synthesis of these factors in the liver. In such a way, vitamin K is essential for clotting. If there is no 2nd, 7th, 9th, 10th factors, if these factors are not synthesized in the liver and these factors are not participated in the process, coagulation, blood coagulation, what will happen? There will be no blood clotting. So indirectly, this vitamin K is helpful to synthesize these factors, and in order to these factors participated, involved in the process blood coagulation. In such a way, vitamin K is very much essential. Okay. It is clearly indicate that vitamin K is essential for blood coagulation. It is clearly indicated that vitamin K is essential for blood coagulation. And next, sodium citrate, sodium oxalate or ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid, simply EDTA, sodium citrate, sodium oxalate or ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. These substances bind to calcium ions and thus make calcium ions unavailable for the action in clotting. What is the role of calcium ions? Once again, you try to recall what is the role of calcium ions. That prothrombin is converted to thrombin in the presence of prothrombin activator and calcium ions. So, if calcium ions are not available for the activation of prothrombin into thrombin, if thrombin is not formed, if thrombin is not there, what will happen? That fibrinogen will not be converted to fibrin. So, these substances bind to calcium ions and thus make calcium ions unavailable for the action of clotting. Okay? Clotting of blood in test tubes, while test tubes in clinical laboratories and blood banks, while collecting blood from the person in that bottle, in that bag or bottle, these substances are mixed with the blood, so the clotting of blood is automatically prevented. Can be clotting of blood in test tubes in clinical laboratories, and if you would like to collect plasma, if you would like to collect plasma, you have to put some amount of sodium citrate or sodium oxalate or EDTA in that test tube. Automatically the blood will not clot, and then we can easily collect that plasma, that blood cells, RBC, WBC, platelets are reached the bottom in dark red color, and above that the plasma is formed. We can collect very easily without clotting of blood. So at the same time, in blood banks can be prevented by the addition of these substances. This is about anticoagulants. Next, circulatory patterns. You have already gained some information, some knowledge about open type of blood circulation and closed type of blood circulation in the previous classes, 10th class in junior intermediate also, in the case of Annelida phylum and in the case of Arthropoda. You have already gained some knowledge so far regarding open type of blood circulation and closed type of blood circulation. First of all, open type of blood circulation. Here I mentioned a simple flow chart. Observe here. Observe this. Blood from heart through arteries, the blood reaches sinuses. What are sinuses? Particularly the type study that cockroach Periplaneta americana, the blood circulatory system is open type. They did not have true coelom. Actually, they are coelomates, but in adults, that body coelom, that body cavity is called hemocoel, that is completely filled with hemolymph. Because of the absence of hemoglobin in that blood, the blood is colorless. That is called hemolymph. Such type of body cavity is called hemocoel. The total hemocoel is divided into 3 or more small cavities. These cavities are perivisceral cavity, dorsal and perineural cavity, ventral nerve cord, ventral cavity, dorsal cavity, heart 13 chambered. Just recall, try to recall. 13 chambered heart is present in the dorsal sinuses, and the double ventral nerve cord is surrounded by that perineural ventral perineural cavity. In between these two, there is a big visceral cavity, that is perivisceral cavity. Remaining remaining body organs are digestive system, Malpighian tubules, reproductive systems, all are located in that perivisceral cavity. Like that, the total hemocoel is divided into sinuses. From that sinuses, after the exchange of nutrients and other nitrogenous wastes and other wastes, that blood collected by veins, finally it reaches again heart. Finally it reaches again heart. Blood flows from the heart into the arteries. Arteries open into large spaces called sinuses. Then the blood is carried by the veins from the sinuses to the heart. Moreover, one more point you have to remember always. In this type of circulation, no interconnecting vessels. That interconnecting vessels, these vessels connect arteries and veins in our tissues. A small hair-like blood vessels, fine hair-like blood vessels, those are called capillaries. So there is no capillaries for the connection of arteries and veins here. So in this type of circulation, no interconnecting vessels, the capillaries between arteries and veins. Next, as the circulatory fluid comes out of the vessels and freely flows in the body spaces, these are called sinuses. This type of circulation, this type of circulatory system is called open type. What are the examples for open type? Already I told you, earlier I told you, cockroach, all the insects arthropods, leeches. Leeches means annelids, arthropods, mollusks, echinoderms, and ascidians. That leeches, arthropods, mollusks, echinoderms are invertebrate examples, but ascidians, these are primitive chordates, protochordates. Ascidians also have this type of circulatory system, open type of circulatory system. Ascidians, protochordates, very simple chordates. Next, closed type. Observe here, blood from the heart into the arteries. These arteries divide into arterioles. After the entry of arteriole into the tissue, each and every arteriole into the tissue, they again divided into each arteriole divided into capillaries. These capillaries fuse to the capillaries of venules. These venules fuse together and forms small veins. These small veins fuse together and forms large veins. That means postcaval vein, precaval vein, pulmonary veins, like that. Through these veins, from the capillaries from the capillary network, through these veins, the blood is collected and reach the heart. Here, these arteries and veins are interconnected through capillaries, fine hair-like blood vessels. Interconnecting vessels. These capillaries, interconnecting vessels. Arteries and veins are connected through these capillaries. So, these are called interconnecting vessels. In this type, blood flows from the heart into the arteries and then to the veins through small and interconnected hair-like blood vessels called capillaries. So, the flow of blood in this type of circulatory system, closed circulatory system, the flow of blood is completely restricted to the vessels only. Unless the wound is happened, the blood will not comes out. Usually the blood will not comes out. The flow of blood is completely restricted to blood vessels only. So that this type of circulatory system is called completely closed type of circulatory system. And what are the examples for closed type of animal examples for closed type of blood circulatory system? Annelids, earthworm, for example, earthworm. Leeches, earthworm example. Leeches, open type of circulatory system. They do have open type of circulatory system. Cephalopods. Cephalopods, non-chordates. Cephalopods means in the phylum Mollusca, these cephalopods are highly evolved molluscans, octopuses, sepia, loligo. Such animals are included in cephalopoda. Cephalo means head region, podas means 8 octopus, 8 arms. Podas means arms. Non-chordata in the phylum Mollusca, highly evolved molluscans, cephalopods. And cephalochordata, these are also primitive chordates, protochordates. Best example, Amphioxus. Cephalochordates and vertebrates, from fishes to human beings. All these animals have closed type of circulatory system. Already I told you that blood flow is completely restricted to vessels only in this type. That is called closed type of blood circulatory system. And then plan of circulatory system in the vertebrates. Plan of circulatory system in the vertebrates. Evolutionary trend in the blood vascular system among vertebrates from gill-breathing aquatic life. Gill-breathing aquatic life, that means from fishes to the lung-breathing terrestrial life up to mammals, including human beings. The first vertebrates, evolved vertebrates, fishes. Okay, fishes. Okay, fishes, what is the fishes? Fishes have a two-chambered heart with an atrium and the ventricle. Only one atrium and only one ventricle. Next, heart pumps out deoxygenated blood to the gills for oxygenation. Such type of heart is called branchial heart. Heart that supplies deoxygenated blood to the gills for oxygenation or purification. Such heart is called branchial heart. So, blood passes through the heart only once in a complete circuit. Moreover, this kind of circulation is called single circulation. That heart is called single circulated heart. Blood passes through the heart only once in a complete circuit. Such type of circulation is called single circulation, single circulated heart, or branchial heart. Why is it called branchial heart? Heart that pumps, heart that supplies deoxygenated blood to the gills for purification, for oxygenation. Such type of heart is called branchial heart. Okay. Single circulation diagram. Observe this diagram. This is heart. Only have two chambers. This is atrium and this is ventricle. From this ventricle, an artery. Through this artery, the blood pumps to gills. This is the capillary network present in the gills. So, gill capillaries. These are called gill capillaries. Here, the exchange of gases will be takes place. The purification of blood or oxygenation of blood takes place. After that, that oxygenated blood directly supplied to the body organs. This is the systemic capillaries. This is the capillary network of each and every organs. Here, the oxygen is supplied to the body tissues, cells, and carbon dioxide is collected. Then, this is deoxygenated blood. This deoxygenated blood again reaches the heart chamber, atrium. So, from here, blood flows to the gills. From gills, directly it is supplied to the body tissues, and again it reaches the heart. So, this is called single circulation heart. And what about amphibians and reptiles? Amphibians, for example, frogs, reptiles, for example, snakes, crocodiles, next turtles, spinodon, lacertilia. Okay, first about amphibians, toads and frogs, salamanders, and newts, urodils. Okay, amphibians have three-chambered heart, whereas fishes have only two-chambered heart, one atrium and one ventricle. But here, amphibians have a three-chambered heart with two atria plural, atrium singular, atrium singular, and one ventricle. Reptiles have two atria and an incompletely divided ventricle. The septum is not completely in between the right and left atrium, left ventricles. Right and left ventricles, in between these two, that septum, longitudinal septum, is not completely formed. It is incompletely divided ventricle. Reptiles have incompletely divided ventricle, but they have two atria. These two atria are completely separated by interatrial septum. Okay. But in crocodiles, Crocodilia, the order Crocodilia, alligators and crocodiles are included in that order. But in crocodiles, like aves and mammals, the ventricle is divided into two chambers, left and right ventricles. So they have four-chambered heart. Except crocodiles, Rhynchocephalia, that means spinodons. It is a living fossil in New Zealand only. It is living in New Zealand only. Rhynchocephalia, the name of the order, and genus Spinodon, and Squamata, Ophidia, Squamata, Rhynchocephalia, and Chelonia, that means turtles. Except crocodiles, in all other reptiles have two atria and an incompletely divided ventricle. Whereas in the order Crocodilia, in crocodiles and alligators, the ventricle is divided into two chambers, completely divided into two chambers, left and right ventricles. So they have four-chambered heart. Okay. Usually, left atrium receives oxygenated blood from the gills, lungs, skin. These are respiratory organs. These gills, lungs, skin. For example, some frogs, some amphibians like urodils, they have gills, and frogs can respire through lungs and skin also, and they can perform cutaneous cutaneous respiration as well as pulmonary respiration. Some amphibians have gills to respire bronchial respiration. So the left atrium receives oxygenated blood from the respiratory organs. Right atrium receives deoxygenated blood from the other parts of the body. Because of the absence of, in amphibians and reptiles, except crocodiles, in amphibians, both in amphibians and reptiles, except crocodiles, because of the absence of a septum in the ventricle, because of the no division of ventricle into left and right ventricles, two types of blood, that means oxygenated and deoxygenated, get mixed up in the single ventricle, which pumps out mixed blood to the body organs. Thus, amphibians and reptiles show an incompleted, not and, an only, an only. Thus, amphibians and reptiles show an incomplete double circulation. What about birds and mammals? These animals have four, including human beings also. These animals have four-chambered heart with two atria and two ventricles. Oxygenated blood is received by the left atrium and passes on to the left ventricle. Deoxygenated blood is received by the right atrium and passes on to the right ventricle. Because of the presence of a specified, a cleared septum in the ventricle is divided into left and right ventricles, pump the blood out without any mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated types of blood. oxygenated blood is pumped, is supplied to the body organs, and deoxygenated blood through pulmonary artery supplied to the lungs for oxygenation. Thus, these animals have two separated circulatory pathways. First, circulation in between heart and the lungs. In between heart and the lungs. This circulation is called pulmonary circulation. Number two, systemic circulation between heart and the body organs. Between heart and the body organs. Hence, these animals are said to be showing double circulation. Double circulation, moreover, our heart is called pulmonary heart. The heart pumps blood to the lungs. Such heart is called pulmonary heart. See this, observe this flow chart. From lungs, from heart to the lungs, deoxygenated, from heart to the lungs, that deoxygenated blood is supplied. After exchange of gases, what will happen? That oxygenated blood again comes to the heart. And this circuit in between, particularly in between heart and the lungs. So, this is called pulmonary circuit. Then, that oxygenated blood from the heart is supplied to the body organs. There, the exchange of gases as well as the supply of nutrients and receiving nitrogenous and other wastes like carbon dioxide, etc. That deoxygenated blood again comes to the heart. This circuit is in between heart and the body organs. So, this circuit is called systemic circuit. So, this type of circulation is called double circulation. Okay. Human cardiovascular system. Human cardiovascular system, our circulatory system, consists of heart. Just I told you, we have four-chambered and muscular heart. Myogenic heart, not neurogenic. Our heart is myogenic heart, not neurogenic heart like as in invertebrates. First one is heart, and second one is a network of closed branching blood vessels. The three types of blood vessels: arteries, veins, and capillaries. And third one is, this is a fluid connective tissue, blood. And what about heart? Our heart is mesodermal in origin. At the early embryonic stages, after gastrulation, there are three types of germ layers are formed. There are three types of germ layers are formed: ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. In each and every germ layer, organs are bodily organs are formed. From mesoderm, heart is formed. So, mesoderm, our heart is mesodermal in origin, thick-walled, muscular, and pulsating organ. Pulsating organ means it can expand and it can contract. Such a organ is called pulsating organ. And next, situated in the mediastinum. Situated in the mediastinum. What is mediastinum? It is nothing but a space in between two lungs. The region, a little bit space in our thoracic cavity between the two lungs is called mediastinum. So, in that mediastinum, our heart is located. Its apex slightly turned to the left. Its top part. Apex means top part slightly turned to the left. And what about the size of our heart? It is the size of a clenched fist. Clenched fist means closed fist. Closed fist. Okay. Next. Our heart is covered by a double-layered pericardium. Double-layered. The outer layer is called fibrous pericardium. Inner layer is called serous pericardium. These two layers are separated by a narrow pericardial space, a little space, a small sized place. These two layers are separated by a narrow pericardial space which is filled with the pericardial fluid. What is the purpose of this fluid? What is the purpose of this pericardial fluid? Pericardial fluid reduces friction between the two membranes and allows free movement of the heart. Okay. The second layer, inner serous pericardium, again divided into, again it is formed by two layers. The inner serous pericardium is also double layered, formed of outer parietal layer and inner visceral layer. Outer parietal layer and inner visceral layer. Parietal layer, the outer layer of the inner visceral layer. The outer parietal layer of the inner serous pericardium. This inner serous pericardium is also double layered, formed of outer parietal layer and inner visceral layer. This parietal layer is fused with the fibrous pericardium and fused with the outer fibrous pericardium, whereas the visceral layer attaches to the surface of the heart and forms its outer layer, that is called epicardium. The wall of the heart consists of three layers. Outer epicardium, how the epicardium forms, just I told you. How it is formed, just I told you. Outer pericardium, middle myocardium, a thick layer of cardiac muscle. In 9th class and in first year intermediate, you have already gained some knowledge about the cardiac muscles, the unique characteristic features of cardiac muscles. So, middle myocardium is completely formed through these cardiac muscles. And inner endocardium, a thin layer of endothelium. That is nothing but a thin layer of endothelium. In the inner endocardium, middle myocardium, outer epicardium. The endothelium of heart covers the valves, mitral valve, bicuspid valve, tricuspid valve, and pulmonary valves and systemic valves. The endothelium of heart covers the valves and it is continuous with the endothelial lining of the large blood vessels such as main aorta and pulmonary aorta, which are connected to the heart. Human heart has 4 chambers with 2 relatively smaller upper chambers called atria. All these things you studied in the 10th class. 2 upper chambers, small chambers called atria, atria plural, atrium singular, and 2 larger lower chambers called ventricles. The deep transverse groove is located between the atria and ventricles is called coronary sulcus. Coronary sulcus or atrioventricular groove. It is a horizontal groove in between the upper small chambers atria and lower big chambers ventricles. Coronary sulcus or atrioventricular groove. And then an ear-shaped, it is not mentioned in your textbook clearly, so that observe carefully. An ear-shaped pouch projecting from each atrium, from both left and right atrium of the heart, called auricular appendix. Auricular appendix. The ventricles are separated by two interventricular grooves, anterior and posterior. Anterior groove, anterior ventricular groove, and posterior ventricular groove, in which the coronary arteries, which supplies oxygenated blood to the cardiac muscles. What are coronary arteries? Coronary arteries supplies oxygenated blood to the cardiac muscles, that means completely to the myocardium, and their branches are lodged, in which in these interventricular grooves, the coronary arteries and their branches are lodged. Okay. Finally, observe this diagram. This is external structure of the heart. This is superior vena cava, right coronary artery. This is left anterior descending coronary artery. These are coronary arteries and their branches. These are ventricles, and these two are atria. These two are left and right atria. These are ventricles. In between the interventricular septums, in these septums, the coronary arteries and their branches are lodged. And then this is pulmonary aorta. This is divided into two pulmonary arteries, supplies blood to the deoxygenated blood to the lungs, and this is main aorta. These are left pulmonary veins enter into the left atrium. This is superior vena cava, and there is another inferior vena cava. This is precaval vein, and this is here postcaval vein enter into the right atrium. Okay, from right atrium, the pulmonary aorta originated, and from left atrium this main aorta originates. This is the external structure of the heart diagram. Next, in the next class, we have to discuss very clearly about the internal structure of heart and cardiac cycle and some other topics. Thank you very much.